Hi, hello, namaskar, what's up, everybody? This is Shubham Thakur here, and welcome to the fresh episode of Shubham Thakur's Live. And today we have our guest from Australia, Miss Lisa Winneke, who is the founder and host of the Good News Guide podcast and the author of the book The Dawn of Hope. Welcome, Miss Lisa. Welcome to Shubham Thakur's Live.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm actually really excited about this conversation, particularly because I have to say, am I allowed to say, when you shared with me, when I asked you just before we pressed record and I asked you
Yeah,
how old you are, and you told me how old you are, and you are literally
yeah.
30 years younger than me, it has taken me until 49 years of age, I have to say, only in the last 18 months, have I been able to step out and do the things I want to do, i.e., having my own podcast. So I just want to say, hats off to you. It takes so much courage
Thank you so
to
much.
do what you're doing. And I've got twin boys, they're almost 17. And I'm like, I am going to get them to watch this and see what is possible. So I just want to say thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for appreciating my talent and being on the show. So let's start the session by asking the first question is that uh, give a brief introduction of your journey of life. As I have seen so many videos of yours and like I've seen the stories you shared in your podcast. So I request you to please give a brief of your journey of life.
Okay, so I won't go through the details of it, but I'll talk about my pivotal moments.
Yeah.
And so growing up, there was a lot of change in my house. There was a lot of change in my life. We moved countries. I was born in Switzerland. My father was English. We travelled. We lived in England, America, Singapore for 6 years before coming back to Australia.
Okay.
So my world was pretty unsettled as a kid. And what I now know looking back is I was a highly, highly sensitive child that didn't find the change so easy. And because there wasn't the adjustment to it in the places, I kind of went inside and I managed it myself. There was a
Oh,
lot of stuff going on in my family. And again, I didn't talk about it. I went inside and I suppressed a lot of stuff for a very long time. How that then showed up is that once I left school when I was 18 years old, I developed an eating disorder. I was deeply, deeply lonely, unhappy, depressed.
oh,
But the mask that I had on to the world was I was appearing like I had all my stuff together, and I didn't. So I developed bulimia, and I had bulimia for 20 years. And basically, over the course of those 2 decades, there were moments that my parents knew, but for the large part, no one knew. It was a world that I lived in, a secret world that was an extremely lonely, lonely world because
yeah,
it was a secret. I was so ashamed. It wasn't something that you go and talk to people about. And so the pivotal moment was I had twin boys that were born 3 months early, and 4 months into when they were 4 months after they were born, one of them was diagnosed with high functioning autism. And that set me down a very dark hole again. And it was then that I had this awakening, whether you want to call it a spiritual awakening, where I went and saw a woman that had me turn the mirror back on me. And instead of my son needing help, which I thought he needed help, she showed me not that I needed help, but that
yeah,
I needed to learn how to love me, which was so foreign.
yeah,
I loathed myself. So that was about 14 years ago. So it changed the trajectory of my life. I'd been in real estate with my ex-husband, he was my husband at the time. Um, I was living, I'd done a university degree, a Bachelor of Business, and I'd gone and become a real estate agent. And this literally changed the trajectory. And I ended up going and studying numerous energy modalities. And I literally went on this hunt to seek what I hadn't known before this time. And as you know, with the world of it's sort of, your whole world opens up. It was always there, always available to me. But
yeah,
once I turned and started walking down this path, the people, the books, the coaches, the support, it was all there waiting for me. And so I had an incredible, incredible journey. In that time, I wrote a book, The Dawn of Hope, which is about my
yeah,
healing journey healing from the bulimia and depression and anxiety and coming back home to love, which is essentially the whole premise of being outside to coming back inside. And then in the process 2 years ago, I came to the realization that the woman I was now and the person that had chosen to marry the husband or the person I'd been with for almost 20 years was not the same woman. And what I wanted and what I valued and what I wanted to experience in this life was almost like I was getting a second chance at life. And we together realized that that wasn't possible inside the relationship. What I wanted and what he wasn't aligned any longer. And so I made a very, very courageous decision to step out of the marriage with 3 boys. And now 2 years on, I'm here, I'm alive. I feel more aligned with who I am. I have a really good relationship with my ex-husband. My kids have gone through stuff, but we're now at a point where the connections are growing. They're probably better than it even was when I was inside a marriage. And I'm now doing what I love. I'm in conversation with extraordinary people, as we were saying. I'm learning and growing every day. And essentially I'm coming back home to me and living the life I've come here to live.
Oh, that's so lovely. And that was very inspiring journey of yours. And I can say that the struggle was really real. So I'm so proud that I get to know you and learn from you. Like it was, I'm speechless. Like seriously, the struggle.
We've all got a story though. And my story is my story, but everyone has a story that when we listen to people's stories, they are inspiring.
Yes, absolutely. So as you said that you are doing what you love and you have 3 boys with you. So what's the meaning behind starting your podcast, the Good News Guide? Like, what's the meaning of that?
Sorry, I missed that. What was the?
Actually, I said that what is the motive behind your podcast, the Good News Guides? Yeah.
Okay, so the seed was planted about 8 years ago when I stopped watching mainstream news. I'd been on this journey. I was becoming more deliberate about where I put my attention and where I put my energy. And I realized the things that were either expanding me, growing me, adding to me, nourishing me, and the things that were contracting me, the things that were creating more fear inside my body. Now, I had come from a place of high anxiety, high stress, living in survival mode, that I was becoming acutely aware of the things that were creating more of that or calming my nervous system down. So the news was one of those things. I realized it was not good. Like as soon as I could actually hear the news on in the house, my body would be affected. That's how conscious I became of my relationship to my body and being in my body. So I stopped watching the news. And when I did, I thought to myself, how amazing would it be if there was a form of news that was offered. Sorry, something just pinged. That there was a form of news that actually inspired people, that expanded people's minds, that had people see information like the information that I wasn't privy to before that new path was laid before me. What if we had information like that was brought into mainstream media, that it wasn't woo-woo, it wasn't super spiritual, but it actually was the information that is the truth, like the truth, rather than what we can't. I mean, for most of us now, we don't know what to believe when we turn on mainstream news. So I had this seed planted. I didn't know what I was just had the idea. And then about a year and a half ago, I went and did some intuitive training. And during this exercise in the last day of this training, I was journaling and I was sort of intuiting. And what came out on paper was conscious media, news, Oprah, Ellen DeGeneres. And I'm like, what's this? And so then I was working with a coach, and it was very clear that I had always wanted to be in conversation with people. I love storytelling. I love connection. I love learning. I love expanding minds plus mine. So it was a no-brainer that I would now start the podcast. I'd bought the podcast equipment 4 years before that. It was sitting in my cupboard.
Oh,
But I was too afraid to start it because I had all those things. What would I call it? What types of people would I speak to? What's my message? All the stuff that gets thrown up when we have a vision or a dream. I had all of that going on. So there was no place to start this podcast until last July.
yeah.
And then it started, and here we are 9 months later, and we have, I think, 30 plus episodes, and I speak to people that inspire me, knowing that if they inspire me, they're also going to be inspiring my community.
Yes. So basically, we started our podcast in the same month at the same time, like in July 2020.
Wow. Congratulations to you.
You too.
We're in our second year.
Yeah, seriously. So, as you said about that, that you had the podcast equipment in your cupboard, but you were afraid to start it. So the moment actually I was just 18, then I was doing a corporate job. I know that I always have friends who are older than me. I think 4 or 5 years older than me, so that I can learn from them. So I was doing the corporate job, but I learned all the things, but it was something that no, it's not meant for you. Like seriously, I was literally saying myself, I was going blank for straight 2 months, and I thought that I had to do something with something great. So I thought, what do I love? So I taught myself that you need to connect people all around the world, and that was my inspiration. So that's how I started. I didn't care, in the starting I had lots of obstacles, like on my own, like I'm not able to properly communicate people, or the connectivity issues, just because of my age, because some people judge me and some not. So it's all about that, and then I started, and it goes well. So uh, I'm really thankful to all the guests who've been to my show and inspired you to do it further. So
So good. See, you're inspiring. I'm sitting here. You're 19 years old. You had an idea, this is not for me, and you did something with it, because this is the missing piece, I believe, for so many people on this journey is we meditate, we visualize, we imagine, we want to manifest it, but we need to take action.
yes,
Action. Because it's not going to happen without taking the things that we're most afraid of. But what I love is that the more times I take steps beyond what I've currently been comfortable with, what that does is it builds up that well of courage deep inside me that gives me the impetus and the courage to then take that next step.
yes. Yeah. So let's moving forward to the next question is that could you please give us a brief about your book, The Dawn of Hope?
Do you know, Shabam, this is a really interesting thing. So I wrote this book maybe 5 years ago, and after I published it, I self-published it. I was really proud of it. I thought it was a beautiful book, and that it would help so many people, because there are so many people across the world suffering from not just eating disorders, but disconnect with self.
Yeah.
I reclaimed all the books about 2 years ago because I, in my mind, did not think it was a good book. I made the decision that I could do better now. This was the old perfectionist me that was thinking I should write another book, because in my next book, there'd be more things that I would want to share. And look, there is, because we're constantly evolving and expanding.
Yeah.
So I have actually got about 200 copies of my book in my front room right now, and people keep saying, you need to just get it out. And I may very well give them all away for free. I don't know. I may. But the book is essentially broken up into 2 parts. It's called The Dawn of Hope, One Woman's Path Back to Love. And so essentially I take the readers through the first part of my story, which of course we're often recreating our own story when we're looking back at the past. but about my childhood and the things that happened along the way that made me who I was and had me develop an eating disorder. So I painted the picture of the story, and then the second half of the book was the tools, the things that supported me in coming home, coming back to me. Things like self-compassion, which, I was sitting in my women's circle this morning, and it was a reminder that the foundation, I believe, of peace and joy and alignment and purpose is self-compassion. And then that extends to love, and not self-compassion from here, but an embodiment of love, an embodiment of compassion where we are that, not that we're thinking that, we are that. So I talk about self-compassion. Forgiveness was and I believe is one of the most incredible tools, and it really, for me, led to the unfolding of relationships and the healing of relationships like you wouldn't believe. My relationship with my father had been so unhealthy and toxic for years. We didn't really have a relationship. We couldn't virtually be in the same room without triggering each other. Now he rings me almost every day. He rings me, "Pet, how are you? I love you." I did a lot of healing because there were things that went on. He did the best he could, but there was a lot of, I would like to say, emotional. There was quite a lot of emotional abuse that I experienced as a result of the stuff that he was going through. And that's the thing, isn't it? If we are not at peace inside ourselves, if we've got pain and wounds inside ourselves, it can't not come out on those that we love. It just does. And I know that with my kids, that the more I heal inside me, the more I love me, the more I nourish and look after me, not from a selfish point of view, the greater connection I can have with my boys, because I can love them unconditionally rather than me needing them to be something for me to be happy.
Yes.
So the book also talks about, the importance of having a practice. For me, meditation, it was meditation back then, it still is, but I do a lot of visualizations. I use breath work. I'm consciously coming back. This is my anchoring point, my heart. So each day, every day, it's not just a momentary moment in the morning and I go, okay, I'm going to connect with my heart. It's moments and moments and moments. Okay, coming back, connecting and breathing into my heart. What would my heart have me do right now? How would my heart have me see this situation right now? How would my heart have me hear what this other person is saying? So it's just my anchor.
Yeah.
And that's been an incredible practice. So I didn't write so much about that because that's been more so in the last couple of years. And yeah, just that understanding that when we heal our trauma, when we heal our wounds, when we heal the stories that we have running about ourselves, because they're all made up. They are all made up. When we can relinquish the stories that keep us trapped in the past, then we come back to ourselves. Then we can really know who we are, and we can know what we want in life. We can know what lights us up. We can know what we want to put on TV or not. We can know what types of people we want to surround ourselves with. We can know what we want to do each day, what gets us up in the morning, what fulfills us. But we can't when we are operating from a place which most of us are, which is based in the external world. We have to come back and know thyself. And I believe that's the premise for deep, profound happiness.
Wow. That was a very like a very wonderful thing you said, and the whole explanation was I was thinking that you shouldn't stop, just go on, go on. It was so pleasing and so insightful. Thank you so much. So I'm moving forward to the next question, and it's a hard question, I guess, that people spend their whole life to know that, is that what is the meaning of life? That's the question.
To love and be love. To love and be love.
Could you explain that, please, further?
So my understanding of love has changed over the course of the past 14 years. So to begin, and it'll be a constant expansion of an understanding. I believe we're all here. The purpose of why we're here is to be love,
Yeah,
because that's the purest expression. It's our greatest expression of who we are, I
yeah,
believe. So we all express that differently. We express being a vessel of love in different ways. So what my understanding and what my experience of that now is that when we are a vessel of love, then we are our greatest expression of who we have each come here to be. So who Shubhama's come here to experience, when you are connected and you are embodying the frequency, the vibration of love, then you are doing, being, having what you're here to do, how you're here to be, what you're here to have. Same with me. In me being an embodiment of love, which is why I believe we're here, me
yeah,
showing up right now, I am doing what fills me up. I am my highest expression of me as the embodiment of love.
yes,
And if we want to look at from a human form, humans want to love and be loved. They want to
yes,
give love and they want to receive love. They want to be seen, heard, and understood, and they want to see, heard. Maybe they don't realize it, but others want to be seen, heard, and understood by us.
yes, completely. Uh, so, uh, like nowadays, there are so many problems around the youngsters, especially that they think that how can they live a different life in terms of everything. They don't think that they need to improve their lives. So, as you said, there are so many like being in the pandemic. It was like a mental health. There are many issues related to that, and people died, of course, and it was so hard for everyone to live last year. So, what do you think that like why people find themselves lost or want a different life in order to be better? They are always comparing. So, what's the reason behind that?
Because they're not living their life. They're living the
Yes,
version of what they've been taught to live, whether that's through the family, through the friendship group that they've grown up in, through the school that they're part of, through the churches that they're part of. They're living a life according to what they see on the outside as opposed
yeah.
to what's inside here. There's no schooling in Australia that I'm aware of. Well, sorry,
Oh,
I'm not going to say that, but the education that I had never, ever, ever taught us about the relationship with self. Who
yeah,
are you? What do you love? What lights you up? What are you passionate about? What makes you laugh? What could you
yeah.
do where you spend, 10 hours and you forget you forget time? What are those things?
Time.
What
Yes,
makes you sad? None of that about you. It's information. It's what we think we need to do. It's focused on the end result. You need to go to uni. That's about, then you've got media. This is what the success looks like. This is what happiness looks like. This is what abundance looks like. And so we're constantly looking outside of ourselves and then comparing us. I've lived a life of comparing. So I know this. I know this pattern. I know how destructive comparison is. It does. And there's a saying that says it's the thief of joy. It honestly is the thief of joy, because you are
yeah.
never happy when you're comparing and looking outside yourself at what others have, because
Okay.
they're not living the life that you've come here to live.
Yes, completely. Uh, so, moving forward to the next question is that like in everyone's life, there's been a traumatic experience in their past, and sometimes people are not able to forget that. Sometimes people used to carry that particular incident, which may happen for some hours or some minutes or maybe maybe few seconds, but they carry that incident or any traumatic experience throughout their lives, and that's why I think they stop their growth. They stop spreading the love and being experiencing the love, and they always try to uh, uh, complain people, complain their family, complain their surroundings. So, in order to create a better future for themselves, what do you think that how to forget or heal our past? Yeah,
So, firstly, I just want to preface before I jump in and say that everyone has experienced trauma.
yeah,
And something I heard, which I absolutely loved, from a woman who came to Australia and spoke, and she's written numerous books, and she said, there's no level of trauma. Trauma's
yeah,
trauma. Your trauma is the same as my trauma. My body knows trauma. Your body knows trauma. It doesn't compare what you've been through as opposed to what I've been through.
yeah,
The other thing is that when we are stuck in trauma, it doesn't, so I want to say everyone is always doing their best. So if somebody
yeah,
is experiencing trauma and they're listening right now, they're listening back, there is no judgment. Because I know when I was in the trauma of what was going on in my childhood and when I was experiencing depression and bulimia, I was not a nice person to be around. I was prickly. I was in pain. Did I know? Did I mean to? Did I intentionally do? No. So what I would first say is that wherever people are at, if you know that you're in highly reactive, I think that's a telltale sign of being in trauma, is highly reactive to your external environment and to people in your external environment. If there is something, if you're awake, if you wake up and you're like, you know what, there is this thing, something I think about is if there's one thing you could erase in your childhood or your adolescence, what would it be? That tends to pinpoint the thing that was traumatic for you, potentially, if your conscious mind will allow you to go there, because a lot of trauma switches it off and we can't even remember the things that created the trauma. But if you are aware that there is trauma and it's something that keeps pulling you back into the past, firstly, I would say support. Number one, people need to reach out and ask for help. I didn't do this alone. There's no way I could have done this alone. Not from a friend. I mean, look, yes, it's great to have a chat with a friend and friends. That's wonderful. But an expert, somebody who knows how to support you working with and healing trauma. Now, trauma is an unfolding process because, I'm going through some deep healing at the moment and revisiting some things that I've revisited many times, but it's just a different layer. And I believe that it's addressing things biologically, actually. I feel like I'm
yeah,
going through a biological upgrade. I've been sick and I believe it's as a result of deeper healing. So support one. The other thing is with trauma is for so long, it was dealt with at the level of the mind. And trauma exists inside the body. There's this great video that I was showing when I was studying emotional freedom technique, and it was this bear that was shot, and it was shot from a plane. It was just something just to send it to sleep for a bit. But what happened in the video footage it showed was the bear went into like full on thrashing its body around to release its body of the trauma.
yeah,
As human beings, we don't go into releasing the trauma when it happens. We go into potentially fight, flight, or freeze. So it gets locked in our physiology. So to heal trauma, we need to do it from a mind-body perspective, not just talking about it, rehashing the trauma, because that actually re-traumatizes people.
that's uh, uh, that's why there are, like, people don't listen to themselves and don't observe themselves. That if sometimes I feel that there are several things happened in everyone's life, and I always think that if I'm gonna focus on that particular thing, that particular trauma, and my body is experiencing and recalling it so many times in a day, I'm not gonna grow. I'm not gonna move ahead in my life. Like that was our past, and we have to be, like there are so many days coming ahead, so many good and very beautiful days are coming ahead. So we need to look to them, not the past, which is already gone. So yeah.
I so agree with you. I mean, I agree. We have one. Well, we don't. I don't believe we've. I
Yeah.
believe we've got multiple lives. But me as Lisa, you as Shabam, we have this life, and how can we make the most of it? But for me, and I've got to say this, that's why somebody like you is so inspiring. I'm 49, and I've only really just woken up in the last decade. Right now,
Oh,
it would be easy to regret that I wasn't where you are right now when I was 19, but I wasn't. But it served a purpose. It has served me to be who I am with the deep, deep foundation of love and compassion and understanding. Now, had I not have gone through that and been stuck in the trauma, then I wouldn't be who I am sitting here right now. So I don't think people ever choose the life if they're in suffering. They're not choosing it. They may be unconsciously choosing it, but consciously everyone wants to be happy.
yeah.
But I think just saying, if for anyone that's watching that is that has experienced trauma and hasn't done healing or has done only a little bit, the key component or the key part in healing trauma is to meet the trauma with love. How
Yeah.
can I keep meeting myself with love? So if I'm in pain or I'm in reaction or I'm going off at my partner or my kids or whatever it might be, if I'm reacting to it, how can I come back and not judge myself for it, but know that this is something inside me. This has got nothing to do with them. This is me.
Yeah.
There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong, but there's some wounds inside me. There's some wounds inside me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like now I'm gonna ask the last question of this session, and it is the based on the topic we had today, that how to create a brand new reality for yourself. And I know this is the theme of your podcast, and you have covered in very various ways, but I would like to request you to explain this as simple as you can.
It's such a process, and I'm going to be writing another book on this. So you've really caught me.
Okay.
So I'm just going to tell you what is, and no, not in any particular order.
Okay.
To create a brand new reality, we have to start here, right now. So what that looks like means that we need to understand that we're not the stories of our
Yeah.
past.
Yeah.
We're also not the feelings that have us attached to our past. So in the work that I've done with Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's a neuroscientist, he's written numerous books. He talks about the fact that we are addicted to certain feelings that keep us anchored to our past. If we're not aware of what those emotional addictions are, we can't liberate ourselves to come back to now. So
Yeah.
to create a brand new reality, we need to come to peace with the stories of our past. And that might look like meeting the stories with love, forgiveness. It might be healing work, whatever it is. And I'm not saying to create a brand new reality, you need to clear it completely, but we need to come to peace with our past so we can create from here. And then we're more in connection with ourselves, because we can't create there's no point creating a brand new reality from out there. We need to create a brand new reality from who am I at the core of who I am? What is it that I want to create this lifestyle? What relationship do I want to be in? What relationships do I want to be in with my kids? What type of work do I want to be involved in? What lights me up? And then creating from the heart. And I keep coming back to this because this is where we create from. And when we
Yeah.
have a vision from our hearts, not our heads, that is a true vision for us. That is truly what it is that we want to create, not what we think we should create based on a whole set of old stories that we've been fed based on our growing up and our education and the people that we've
Yes.
surrounded ourselves with. Did that answer your question?
Yes, completely. And it's always about, as I saw in your podcast, as I told you before starting the session, that I highlighted 4 points, which I think that is very necessary. First is the key to commitment. Second is the mastering your emotions, and the third, the love for your body, and the fourth, the science of self-love. You completely described that in the whole session, and we need to follow that, and we need to be aware in ourselves so that we can create a brand new reality for ourselves. So thank you so much, Lisa, for being on my show. I'm so honored to have
I loved it. That was so much fun. I'm happy to come back anytime.
you.
I want to say congratulations to you again.
Thank you.
Really, really good on you for reaching out and asking people to come on and be a guest, no matter whether you're 19 or not. But to be 19 and to have the courage to do it, I'm like, hats off to you.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Thank you
It
so
was a
much.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.